All right, so JFK's racist face is the speech we got. The speaker is President John F. Kennedy. He was the 63rd president, and he wanted technological advancements for the country, and he pushed forward for the racist space. The purpose of the speech was to convince the American people that space travel is a necessity and isn't just something that they wanted to beat other countries at, like so many other things. Another reason is to highlight how fast they progress in space travel and how much it would benefit the American people and the rest of humanity, and to show why America must and will be the first country to conquer space. The primary audience at Rice University is the people in the crowd at Rice. And the secondary audience is the American people, those who doubted the determination of the U.S. and their push for the space program. The context for this speech was held in 1963 at the Rice University in Houston, Texas, where the more other rockets and these rockets were launched from. The US and the Soviet Union were competing for space domination, and the Vietnam War had just begun. A catalyst for the speech or the exigence was that Russian satellites had become the first to orbit Earth, and also the first human into the orbit. Another catalyst for this speech was the Mariner 2 probe was sent to Venus and was the first robotic space probe to conduct a successful planetary encounter. The organization of this speech was the first through third paragraph was thanking the audience for attending his speech and stating his gratitude, establishing ethos. The fourth through ninth paragraph was emphasizing how slowly humanity has progressed in the past, so he can contrast it with how fast progression is now, using logical process of thought. Paragraph 10 through 17 is why America needs to go to space now, establishing a background and also using logical explanation. 18 through 23 was summarizing how far the space program has already come, using more ethos and logos. And 24 through 27 is where the space program will go in order to fulfill its goals, using logical progression. And paragraph 28 through 31 stating that America will go to space no matter what, showing his determination, ethos, and logos.
Okay, so for the first rhetorical choice, we found a example of personification, and the quote is, "For the eyes of the world now look into space, to the moon and to the planets beyond, and we have vowed that we shall not see it governed by a hostile flag of conquest, but by a banner of freedom and peace." So this personification of the world demonstrates how all of humanity is aiming to go to space and conquer it. And the flag of conquest represents ruling space with malice, intent, and violence, but the banner of freedom and peace represents a governance that is fair and just in space. And these help highlight JFK's point that the U.S. needs to be the nation to go to space in order to secure a peaceful and stable frontier. This helps him make a call to action and a sense of urgency for the need for space travel. The next rhetorical choice was diction. The quote is, "In the last 24 hours, we have seen facilities being created for the greatest and most complex exploration in man's history. We have felt the ground shake and the air shattered by the testing of the C-1 booster rocket, many times as powerful as the Atlas, which launched John Glenn, generating power equivalent to 10,000 automobiles with their accelerations on the floor." And the use of words with such great power emphasizes the sheer greatness of the technology that's being achieved in so little time, the astounding rate of achievements in space science that will pave the way for humanity in the unknown frontier, providing stable evidence of the speedy progress that will benefit the American people and humanity. Words like greatest, complex, powerful, and shattered are all examples of strong diction words that prove these points. The last rhetorical choice was syntax, and over here we found a tricolon, and that is, in short, our leadership in science and industry, our hopes for peace and security, our obligations to ourselves as well as others, all require us to make this effort. So as you can see, they all have the same sentence structure. I'll start with our, and this tricolon serves to display the reasons why America needs to be the nation to go to space, and these reasons give Americans, reassurance that the money and time necessary for space travel and American progression in space science is an absolute necessity and for the greater good of all of mankind and the American people. And the appeals, they are all the quotes I listed above, but the personification is especially pathos heavy because it speaks to pride in your nation and peace, freedom, and a call to action, which evokes emotional response in the listeners. The diction one had a lot of logos and a lot of pathos. The pathos again was pride in your nation and just pride in the United States. But the logos had a lot of statistics, like the 10,000 automobiles, and the logos in this quote just shows the power and technological superiority of the American space program. The syntax had a lot of ethos in it, and that gave credibility to the space program and JFK himself, and America as a whole. Okay, and the tone. Throughout the entire speech, there was a very optimistic tone. JFK was very hoping and optimistic that the United States will lead space travel. And two of these quotes that exemplified this were, "Surely the opening vistas of space promise high costs and hardships, as well as high reward. And however, I think we're going to do it, and I think that we must pay what needs to be paid." JFK was also very proud of his space program and what he had built, and said this by giving us many examples of how his space program has succeeded in many different areas. TIROS satellites have given us unprecedented warnings of hurricanes and storms, and space